All right, guys. First, a couple new additions to the staff. I'm not talking about absolutely coaches or staff members, but we've got a couple young baby boys. Johnny McWilliams, our assistant strength coach, had a little boy, Johnny the third, within the last couple weeks, and Dan Carroll, who we hired from the University of Houston. His wife had a little boy, Rocco, here. So we've got two baby boys in the last 2 weeks here in our football program, and it made me think. You look at this staff, and I think a real positive moving forward is just the work ethic, the energy, and quite honestly, the potential of this staff. But I just mentioned Johnny and Dan. Joe Daniels, our new or Joe Daly. I coached with a guy, one of my best friends, Joe Daniels, for a long time at the University of Pittsburgh. So that probably won't be the last time I make that mistake. But Joe Daly comes in there. He has 3 little boys and a little girl, probably all under the age of 6 years old or 8 years old. Apollo Wright has 3 little boys. Saga has 2 little boys and 2 little girls. Perry Iliano has 2 little boys, both playing little league basketball right now. Jordan has 2 little girls, Jordan Peterson. So I could keep going on, and that's probably that's a great motivator right there, right? Because you always used to joke in coaching that baby boy needs new shoes. So we got a bunch of coaches on this staff and a bunch of young people involved in this program, and the stakes are pretty high. But I am excited about this staff. And, the reason we're starting late, you look around the country right now, we're probably one of the last schools to start, was really by design, so we could take advantage of this pre-spring practice time to develop schemes, because there's no question at the end of the day, being purposeful, we have to coach better and we have to play better. It all comes back to that. It all comes back to that. We can talk about a lot of things that have happened over the last year or so, or 2 years. We can talk about 2 years in a row we've lost 2 quarterbacks each year. Not one quarterback, but we've lost 2 quarterbacks the last 2 years. In some ways for the season. We lost 2 of our best defensive players before we ever really got going this past season. We could talk about all that. But the most tangible thing that we have to address is we have to coach better and we have to play better. And it starts with me. And we have put everything we have, as we should, as everybody else is doing around this country, but we have put everything into preparation for these 15 days of spring football, of being totally aligned, totally 100% aligned. Not just as a coaching staff, but kind of looking in the foreground a little bit to all of a sudden it's September 20th. What are we going to actually play? What are we going to actually play? And that's compounded by the fact that we don't know exactly who we're going to be playing with, because you always want it to fit your personnel. So it's taken a lot of work. It's just the second step in this. It's not like, okay, spring ball starts Monday or Tuesday, now we start coaching. You guys that have been around college football know that it doesn't change one thing as far as a player's work ethic or a coach's work ethic. It just shifts into a little different pattern because you're allowed to put helmets on. So again, I kind of went through a lot to mention all these young children that these young coaches have on this staff. But right now, as I stand here, that probably is our biggest positive, is that we're very hungry. I don't want to use the word embarrassed. I'd rather use the word motivated to spin it forward. It's not a chip on our shoulder as much as it is just from a pride standpoint. We have to coach better and we have to play better. So as I look at what would be a strength and weakness right now, just talking about our team, I'd have to say our strengths are kind of what our weaknesses are. That sounds maybe as an odd statement, but our strength is that as a whole group, when we come in here every morning, we are up against the wall a little bit. in the fact that it hasn't gone well the last 2 years. So the motivation of this team, through whatever dynamic that is that motivates a team that hasn't played very well the last 2 years, that's a strength. But it's a negative because we don't have much momentum right now. We don't have much momentum. Where's our confidence right now? I think the second thing is we're going to have a lot of new faces playing, a lot of new faces. That's a positive. I mean, we have to rebrand our program. We have to get this thing back. We're doing it with guys that haven't played. They should be hungry. That's a positive. We've got guys that have not played a lot. They should be hungry. But it's also a negative because we have guys that haven't played a lot. You know, I think what's unique about our team and quite honestly our program, you know, really since we came in here, and that's a long time ago now, and maybe it'll always be this way here. There's always a lot of transition in that we started with the lowest number of scholarship players in the country, period. We are still a team that has older guys that are hungry, that should be hungry, but older guys that haven't played a whole lot. Or you don't have the older guy that's been in the program the 5th year or the 4th year. And that's kind of what college football is now. But really here, whether it's because of never catching up with the full roster because you're forced into taking junior college kids, maybe it's because we're more attractive to families and players that are junior college kids as we have to expand out in a broader sense, with some of the statistics being what they are here in our community and our state. There's a whole litany of reasons, but we are a program that has older guys that aren't necessarily experienced guys. That can be a tremendous positive, but it can also be a negative. So I've talked a lot to our team about leadership of, we always talk about power of the unit, your position group. Just be accountable to each other in that position group. One other thing that I'm really using with this team is, okay, guys with 1 year of football left. 1 year of football left. What's your purpose out of all this? You may be a guy with 1 year of football left and you haven't played a whole lot, and all of a sudden you don't start as the season starts, kind of like in a grad transfer type world. Well, what are you going to be if that happens? Your purpose needs to be, you want to graduate, you want to leave here being a great teammate, which will make you a better father, a better husband. You want to leave here with high character, regardless of what happens with the football piece. Obviously, if the football piece goes well and we win and you have success, it's going to be great. But the leadership of those guys on our team that have 1 year of football left is extremely, extremely important. And some of those guys haven't played a lot. Let's take Amari Davis, for example. He's a talented young guy. He's talented. He hadn't played a lick yet. Was coming on a little bit, sprained the ankle at Utah State. He's in his last year of football already. He just got here a year ago. I use that as an example. Then you have an Alex Hart that's been here 5 years, that's been through the program 5 years. I know what Alex Hart's going to be. Whether we win, lose, he has success or not. I know what he is. We have some other guys that, quite honestly, none of us know. They don't know themselves exactly what they're going to be. They're older guys that haven't been through all 5 years. They haven't experienced success here like we have in the past. We haven't had the chance to get them from being a young guy to an older guy 4 years later. We are a football team made up of that. We got a little bit of talent. But our job as coaches, from a technical standpoint and coaching, X and O's is number one priority. And with that, what we have to do to motivate this team and keep this team, who is 3-9, and some older guys that haven't played a lot, who now all of a sudden they have to have a successful seasons for us. How do we motivate them, not for the start of the season, but how do we motivate them through the whole season? That's what this is. And that's what's fun about this. That's what's exciting about it. And it's time to go take the next step in just what we've done since the day the season ended when we got our butt kicked from Wyoming. That we're just continuing the next step now by putting a helmet on Tuesday and Thursday and going into a 20-hour week now with the kids instead of an 8-hour week, right? That's what this is. So we're a hungry team, as we should be. We're a hungry coaching staff, as we should be. We don't have a lot of momentum. We don't necessarily have a lot of confidence, but that can be a good thing. That can be a good thing because every day you're coming in here like your back's against the wall, as it should be. And now we go. Staying healthy is extremely important. Let's start with the quarterbacks, right? As I said, 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row. We've had a quarterback go down right off the bat and miss really the year, as in the case of Tavaka last year, as in the case of Colton Gerhardt last year. Now we have Tavaka, who's starting out healthy. We have Sharon Jones, who's starting out healthy. We have Trey Hall, who's a redshirt freshman now, who, because of those 2 injuries last year, had to prepare every week like it was a game. And we've got a junior college transfer. So it all starts with that quarterback. We go into it with some good candidates. And, so we're ready to get started. Questions?
How do you feel like you just talked about the quarterbacks, and I know that you haven't seen them on the field or anything like that, but do you have an idea of who might emerge out of that group?
No, I've seen all of them on the field. Okay. I've seen every one of them on the field, and that's why so much time has gone in, Van, to tweaking our scheme to know exactly what gives each one of these quarterbacks the best advantage schematically when they're in the game. And that's why we hired Joe Daly. That's what Joe Daly and our offensive staff has done since they have come in here. We have tweaked things. For the quarterbacks directly, where a year ago, quite honestly, we were going to be the University of Arizona's offense, regardless of who our quarterbacks were, as we made the transition from a triple option exclusive world into a spread world. Well, we have been in the spread world now 1 season, okay? So now it is tweak that spread to what fits our quarterbacks and also tweak that spread into being a certain percentage of what we had been prior to last year. So we're in a much more exact place than a year ago where whether it was Sharon Jones, Tavaka, or Gerhardt, or the freshmen, when they were in there, it was going to be Arizona's scheme because we were just going to the spread. We were just taking the first step. So that's what this whole thing has been. I mean, that's probably a great question right off the bat because that's as easy to explain from an offensive standpoint of where we are. Because we had really good success. 2 years ago, we led the whole entire nation in rushing, right? Last year, we go to a spread concept. Never really established anything. Kind of got a spread in there, but never really had anything, being quite honest. We've done just as much or more, probably more on defense to the specifics of what I've just said we've done on offense. That's why we're starting late, and that's when I say we have to coach better. That's what it is. I mean, we put some things on tape last year that I don't care who was injured, I don't care what happened, you absolutely, as coaches, can't put on tape.
So it's kind of like spread/option?
Absolutely. You know, we're not a team with a talent level that will ever be able to outspread the spread teams. We still have to be, from a schematic standpoint, a pain in the butt to prepare for. And on a given week, we have to do some things different than that team we're playing saw the week before. I don't think that will ever change. We've totally made that decision on defense. You know, we went into it saying, okay, let's win, let's build this program. We did win, we go to bowl games. Would we recruit better and have enough players to? No, we need to be absolutely different and unique each and every week compared to who they played the last week.
Do you feel like you got the running back? You know how like Terry on and Jarrell, like those guys had such a quick first step. You feel like you got that one running back?
No, we don't. That's a big concern. You know, we've got some running backs. I do think we don't have that guy. We don't have that guy that can just stick the foot in the ground and take it like we had with Casey Carrier, Jarrell Presley, and Gipp. Bryson Carroll is a guy who's really fast, and we have totally moved him from quarterback to tailback, and he's 180 pounds and explosive. Amari Davis is fast, a little more physical, but he's not Jarrell, he's not Gipp. Truthfully, we have a little freshman coming in here from Louisiana that is that, Chad Alexander. He's about this big, but it doesn't matter because we've had tremendous success with those guys that are that type of back. But that is a concern. And that's why we went to a little more of a spread system, because not only schematically after a 6-year period, the teams that we play every year have played us. We didn't have last year the Gipp and those guys. I mean, Tyrone wasn't that. Tyrone was a good, solid, tough, physical back, but he wasn't like we had back when we led the nation in rushing. So there's a purpose and a plan to all of this that has to be exact, and that's why we're a little bit later getting started.
You talked about being aligned and talked about your team. What other goals do you have that you want to accomplish in spring football?
First of all, we've had 2 of the 3 highest GPAs in the history of this football program the last 2 semesters, right? And that's being 3-9 and 3-9, which to me is a huge indicator that there's a strong foundation here. So if you look at last spring and last fall, we've had 2 of the 3 highest in the history of this program. I like to this spring have the highest in the history of this program, which ties in with what I said about here's a group of guys. What's your real purpose of what you're trying to get out of this whole experience, right? If we do lose a game early, if you don't start early, there has to be a bigger purpose to all of this, So, I mean, that really is first. I want to continue, not that we haven't had some things that have happened off the field. Everybody has, period, around the country. I'm not pleased with anything that happens. But I want to continue the academic thing, and I want to continue. It all ties together. As much as that scheme I talked about, we have to have something that gives us an edge. And the more aligned we are, and the more we take care of our business, and the more we can just narrow the focus on football, the more pride we have in what we do here. And that you get pride from doing things right. We don't get any pride from being 3-9, but we get pride from just the day-to-day culture of how we do things. So that's first, right? That's first. And then second is don't waste 1 second in the spring of doing something that we may not do in the fall. We've got to be so exact with everything, because last year we weren't exact, and we paid the price. We weren't exact as a coaching staff, and we paid the price. But, I'm just thinking as I go here. I mean, the first thing is to find out who the 11 are. I talked to our team about that. Right now, all you're trying to be is one of 11. And we build the leadership piece through power of the unit and these guys with 1 year of football left. But who's the 111? Who's one of the 11 out there? Who's going to be out there? That's it. Who's up?
How difficult is it to be through a program as long as you have and kind of have a rebuild on the run now like you're doing? New coordinators, but knowing that there's, like you said, you have to be so exact and having to win next year.
You know what it is? It's re-energizing. It's grueling, honestly, because, you would love to have it where, okay, it's rolling, and there's continuity, and it's rolling. But even like for Nick Saban right now, in Nick Saban's world, it's not rolling for Nick Saban because he lost his last game. I mean, that's what this profession is. I mean, it's a year-to-year deal. But from the standpoint of what it is it's completely starting over from every single meeting I'm in to every card it's drawn up to. I'm right back to where I started my first time coaching, attacking it like that. That's what it is. You know, we're starting in a lot of ways completely over, which is, I think, dramatically needed. You know, we're not fooling ourselves that 2 years ago means anything right now. 2 years ago doesn't mean a darn thing. We're starting right now like we just walked into this building and walked into this program for the first time. And that's in all honesty. And not that we don't do that every year, but this year even more, because we have a new offensive coordinator. We've changed things dramatically on defense. 2 years ago is a long time ago now, where last year, okay, we were still, okay, even though we had the one bad year, there's maybe some momentum, let's just tweak the offense. No, we were 3-9, 3-9. It's time now to rebrand it. And that's how we're going about it.
Coach, what's the status of Alex Hart for spring, and how's he looked?
Yeah, Alex looks really good, as does Trent Sellers. You know, both those guys went down with significant knee injuries, and both of them have been doing everything full non-contact. We're going to keep them out of contact in the spring, but they're full go, full on for the fall. And they will be doing some things in the spring, but no full contact. And I mean, you know, both those guys, you know, I can't say enough about Alex Hart and Trent Sellers. You know, Trent was the guy that transferred from Georgia Tech. Last year was a starting defensive end, and I can remember the play in preseason camp and scrimmage when he went down. But man, he loves football. He loves football and has worked as hard as anybody. He and Alex, two guys, I mean, just from a rehab standpoint, the way they attack things, from a leadership standpoint, but they're both good, cleared. You know, other injuries, Contrail Moran, who didn't play at all last year, the running back, who was highly recruited, he's back full speed. We're going to hold him out of contact in the spring, very similar to Alex. Q Drennan, who went down, first catch of the year, right? Q Drennan, our probably biggest play receiver in a lot of ways. First catch of the year against Incarnate Word, right? Blows the hip out. Completely ugly injury. He's back full speed. We're going to hold him out of spring. So really pretty good. Aaron Austin, defensive end, we did get his labrum done after the season. He is one of those older guys that all of a sudden now he's in his second year of football, last year of football, but he's out this spring with a labrum. He's an example of a guy 1 year of football left that we're counting on. He's not out there because of a labrum. But overall, pretty good. Tavaka's 100% full speed go. I'm trying to think who else. Brian, anybody else?
Bob, last year at the end of the year, you started talking about we need to have off-season conversations about the commitment. So having had those conversations now, or I don't know if they're still ongoing, how comfortable are you with the direction that you've been told and what you need to do to get the program back? Of commitment as far as? You just said there were some things to be discussed.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I would, you know, I don't think it's any secret. You know, we do need to, as everybody knows, with the administration as well, we do need to do some things to bolster not only football, probably, I'm speaking for myself, but probably some other sports as well, from a competitive standpoint, to try to either be equally competitive or a competitive advantage. You know, I talked specifically about feeding guys more, because I did think last year that the Air Force game was a true indicator. We normally play Air Force early. We had beaten Air Force 3 years in a row. We go up there and just got pounded, the 10th game of the season, and we were a beaten down. That's not the only reason. I've said we didn't coach as well as we should. You know, it's an interesting time. You know, and Eddie's here, and Eddie can address this. I don't know that anything's moving forward now at a real fast clip, because there are issues with sports being dropped and final decisions being made. But I know we are aligned as to far as what the vision needs to look like moving forward. I can't stand here and tell you that, okay, we've taken that step yet, because we haven't. Because this is a unique period, and I shouldn't even talk about this. I should have Eddie come up and talk about this. This has been a unique period for UNM athletics. And I'm not sure that anybody right now can move forward with the next step of what this is all supposed to look like until we get past this first step that involves what the whole public conversation has been about where are we headed with issues that affect budget, right? But I know from David Williams being here as assistant athletic director who came here from South Dakota, and Eddie, all the conversations we have had, we are aligned of knowing certain things need to be better. It's just when is the time and when are those resources to step forward and do that. So, I want to answer it as honestly as I can. Right now, no. We're probably at the lowest point we've been since I've been here as far as some of those things that you actually have to do to get an advantage. But I do think change is coming, and I think we are all aligned in that because of certain unique situations. Now's maybe the best time for those things to happen. I don't know. Did I answer that? I mean, I stumbled through that, but I just want to be honest. We're pulled back pretty far right now. We're pulled back pretty far.
No, just to follow up, you did a video a couple weeks ago asking for 2 people to be on the committee to enhance the fan thing. How has that gone? And like thinking out of the box and those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think this is a great time. I mean, David, come on, David, you want to come up? Okay. David Williams is in charge of that. Eddie put it together, and David is in charge of it. And we actually had the first meeting, which I probably won't be involved in every meeting, but both Eddie and I were at that meeting a couple weeks ago, right before we went on spring break. And there was a committee of probably 15 people there? 15 people of the fan experience. And my comment was, I've been doing this a long time. Whatever fan experience you start with, I know the fan experience is going to be based on whether we won or lost the game. And that's the thing I can control. But we are in discussions in a very organized, step-by-step process of upgrading what the fan experience will look like in the fall. And the first step of that, and the only step of that for me, is just what I just talked about with our team. But there is movement forward in a very organized way, Greg, of addressing the things of alignment and commitment and support. But we all have to realize this is a unique period just because of all the things going on right now. It just is.
Is it going to be more? What's the changes?
Got to wait and see, man. I'm not sure myself. I mean, it's going to look a lot different. Just schematically, it's same principles always, because principles are principles, but it's going to look different. It's going to be new faces, and it's going to be a fairly dramatic overall of the scheme. All right, guys, thank you.